here today with Julie Gray Owens, the Executive Director of LITAC and a transgender management consultant. Thanks for being here, Julie.
Thank you.
So, first of all, tell us a little bit about LITAC.
Well, the Long Island Transgender Advocacy Coalition was started back in 2005 when a number of transgender activists got together and felt that we needed to do something to help the community move forward. And we've been doing little things along the way, and probably about 2 years ago, we had a case where a young trans woman had been actually roughed up at an Irish pub on St. Patrick's Day. And we did a demonstration out there, and we ended up bringing out close to 40 people. And at that point in time, we realized that we had the reach to start being able to do some I think, pretty impressive things. So for the past 3 years, we have done what we call the March and Rally for Transgender Civil Rights in Nassau County. And we just finished our last one this past June. And we've had upwards of 150 people come out, along with local politicians, assembly members, and so forth, talking about the issues of transgender rights here in Nassau County as well as New York State.
Now, are you connected to a national organization, or are you a discrete, separate,
We are a discrete, separate organization.
And it's Nassau County, or Long Island? It's Long Island.
We're based on Long Island, but we're doing some, I think, amazing work across the state. And we can get into that a little bit later.
Sure.
We're actually doing transgender town halls across the state in an effort to hear from the community, the needs of the community, so that we can start putting together a legislative agenda and be able to go to our state government and say, we need this, and we need this.
And here's why.
And here's why, exactly.
Very good. That's
Exactly.
great.
Exactly.
So in order for viewers to understand what we're talking about and the nuances of it and how language can affect people, we have some information about the language of gender here that you brought, which was really interesting. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, what I usually like to do before I get started when I do a presentation is I always say, before we start talking about people like me, let's talk about people like you.
Okay, let's.
People like you may be surprised that there is a term for you, and that term is called cisgender. CISGENDER. And what that basically means is that when you were born, you were given a sex at birth. In your heart of hearts, your personal identity, you match that. And everything is fine, and you go through life having no issues about gender because the letter that was given to you on your birth certificate matches you perfectly, and you move on with life.
My perception of myself matches my physicality.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So
cisgender.
And actually it was put in the Oxford English Dictionary in 2015. So it's really funny because sometimes we'll have...
so it's a word.
It's a real word.
Okay.
People will, I'm not cisgender, don't call me cisgender. Well, really, you're cisgender. It's like human being.
We're not
you're
calling you that, it's what you are.
It is a definition, if you will. So I like starting that way because it starts developing the idea that we all can be defined by things that we probably never thought about.
Right, and there's no thinking of... I think it also undercuts the perception that some people have mistakenly that there's normal and there's other, and there isn't. There's all of us are us.
Exactly. All of us can be defined in 4 ways.
Okay.
The first way, obviously, is the moment that you're born, when the doctor or the nurse describes who you are by your gender. Okay, so that's your biological sex. We all have that, and that's pretty straightforward. There are cases where it's not as easy to define, but for the most part, most people are either male or female. That goes on their birth certificate, and that's it. So we have that first. The second thing we have is what we talked about before, your own personal, what's called gender identity. That's what's inside of you.
And you know that pretty early, my understanding.
Oh yes, absolutely. Most trans people will tell you that they knew that there was something different 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. For me, my own personal story, I can trace the timing to being about 4 years old.
Wow.
And we'll talk about that.
Wow. And by the way, I have to tell you, you probably hear this, but the information that I get that's not in the news comes from the entertainment world and the Transparenting, the show, the TV
Right,
show
exactly.
that had such great acclaim in the last few years, that gave us a look somewhat accurately, from what I understand.
Absolutely. Very happy with the presentation there. We've not always in the media received the kind of attention and detail that they show in that show, so it's a real
There's
positive.
a lot of compassion.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And some of the stories that are shown there, actually, we all share some of those stories, which is really kind of funny.
I guess they make you laugh when you see
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
It's very cool to see something portrayed that you went through, and especially if there's a little distance, because they say tragedy with distance is comedy.
Right. So just getting back
Let's
to
get
where
back
we're
to
at.
some of
Yeah,
these
exactly. So we've talked about your biological sex. We've
Mhm.
talked about your gender identity. The next thing is your gender presentation. So, for example, we've all seen, for example, let's take masculine women. Where we would say, wow, that woman really doesn't dress like a feminine girl. Maybe she has a job. She could have a job that maybe like a manual labor job or something like that. But we will see those type of, let's say, women. We've seen men that tend to be maybe a little over the top from a standpoint of style.
And this has nothing to do with sexuality.
Nothing to
It
do with
has to do with
sexuality.
presentation and appearance.
Exactly. So, and we have, all of us have some point on the graph, if you will, have a point where we pretty much, this is our identity. This is what, our expression rather, this is what we show the world. And then finally, the fourth thing is your sexual orientation. Now, that has nothing to do with your gender identity. It has nothing to do with the sex that was put on your birth certificate. It has nothing to do
It's
with...
really a separate issue.
It's a separate issue altogether. And obviously, that's who you love. And we all can be described by that. So when you take those four specific categories, if you will, your biological sex, your gender identity, which is inside of you, your gender expression, which is how you show the world, and your sexual orientation, you can pretty much describe everyone as far as that goes, whether it be a cisgender person or a transgender person. So that's one of our biggest things that we always try to teach people is that there's more to us, and people don't think about it. Because, for example, if you're cisgender and you've never had a problem in life, you went through school without any bullying about, oh, you look like a girl or anything like that, you were always a boy, you played sports, you liked girls, clear sailing. Well, for transgender people, that's where the turbulence comes in. For a lot of us, we know early on that something isn't right. We may not even understand it. We may not, you don't come with a dictionary or an owner's manual
you
that
don't
says,
fit in,
you just know that something isn't exactly, something's different. And usually what happens in the family is that children will take their cues from parents, relatives, brothers and sisters, family, friends. Well, if you're transgender, where's your role models? Especially when our community is so hidden. So you may not know it, but your uncle may be transgender, or maybe your aunt is transgender, or your next door neighbor might be, but you don't know it.
Yeah.
And so you go through life kind of figuring out what's going on, but you have no guidepost, because there's nothing there that says, hey, it's okay to be this way, and it's okay to move forward.
Wow.
So that's the kind of information that you need to start with when you want to start talking about someone's story, is you need to understand that those things are. So, in my case, to the world, I looked like a very happy, heterosexual, cisgender boy. However, around the age of 4, again, this is probably a very innocent situation. My mother and father both worked, and I was dropped off usually at an aunt's house and taken care of till they got home. So one night they picked me up, they brought me home, and I think it was late, and my mother sat down on the couch, took off her high heels, and said, please do me a favor and take this to the bedroom. Well, what does a 4-year-old kid do when an adult hands them shoes? You put them on. I put them on, but it wasn't like, haha, I put them on, no big deal. I can remember feeling this really, I'll use the word strange or weird feeling, something that I never felt before, and I didn't know what it was. It was like, okay, well, this is strange.
Strange how?
Just that it was like Well,
Was it good? Was it bad? Was it?
it was a
different?
bolt of lightning in me, but I don't know. I didn't know good or bad to that.
But it
just
wasn't painful
But
to your-
no, it wasn't painful. But it was like, whoa, what's
Something
this?
just happened.
Whoa,
Something
yeah,
just
something
happened.
something is meaningful and I don't get it. You
Right.
know, type
Right.
of thing.
Right.
If we fast forward a couple of years, we're at a family occasion. Don't know what it was, but my parents were smart. They brought, I'm 7 years old now, and they've given me an activity book. And in the activity book, there's games and puzzles and everything else, but there's also paper dolls. And at the time, because I'm a child of the '60s, this was when the Sleeping Beauty movie had just come out.
Oh, yeah.
So the theme of the activity book was a Sleeping Beauty activity book, and of course, what it had was paper dolls of the prince and paper dolls and a paper doll of Sleeping Beauty with clothes for both. So I can remember taking Sleeping Beauty's clothes and putting them on the prince and getting sort of revved up and excited to go run to my mom like all little kids will do. Mommy, Mommy, look what I did.
Did you?
No. I stopped and I went, wait a minute. I don't know if this is a good idea.
Wow. That's
At
amazing.
7.
You'd
At
have that
7.
insight.
At 7.
I guess you
At
pick
7.
up cues from society about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
You know what? I'm not going to do this. And that was a secret that I kept from my family until 5 years ago when I invited them to come to my wedding, to my second wife.
5 years ago.
Yeah. And I was being married as Julie to my wife Barb, and so that was
How'd that go?
the wedding, or letting them know.
Well, I'm assuming the wedding went well.
The wedding was awesome.
Good.
And their response, my brother and two sisters were very awesome, very accepting.
Good.
So it was really very positive.
That's nice.
Yes.
It took courage, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it was, if you're coming, you need to know that you're not going to see my male side. You're going to see Julie.